What's up everybody, Super Dirks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2014 Hyundai Veloster Turbo. Huge thanks to Jay for hooking me up with this very sweet car to review for you guys today. So about the Veloster Turbo, well, many of you have been requesting this car and it's a really quirky but cool alternative to those that don't want the Honda Civic Si, don't want a GTI, or want to save a little bit of money. You can get one of these, I mean, it's got a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, hatchback design, you got that quirky 3-door practicality there, so it makes it a little bit more practical than a standard two-door would be, but you still have all the great benefits of a 2-door with the stylish looks, and I think it's just a really cool looking car. Whereas for the interior of the Veloster Turbo, it's pretty cool. I mean, you have all these blue accents and stuff, but first things first, you sit down in these seats, and they're nicely leather wrapped here in this fully loaded version of the Turbo here. And they're a little bit on the wider side, but I mean, they have some pretty beefy bolsters, and overall they're not bad seats, and they're pretty comfortable, and like I said, I love these blue accents. It's very cool. Next is the steering wheel on the Veloster Turbo, which is like most Hyundai steering wheels for the most part, nothing too different here. You have the beefier 10 and 2 notches, and it's nicely leather wrapped, which is appreciated. 9 and 3 grip is pretty good, not the best out there, but not bad, and but overall it's a pretty good wheel. Next is the gauges in the Veloster Turbo, which are, again, a pretty standard Hyundai fare. They didn't really jazz them up too much over a standard Veloster, and so they're nothing to write home about. You have your basic tachometer, speedometer, little gauges there in the middle for your fuel and things like that. And, so not the most amazing gauges, but they're not bad. It would have been cool if they put, like, the Genesis gauges, which do look a lot cooler in there. But, yeah, they get the job done. Coming along to the center of the dashboard here, though, this is where, Hyundais have really improved so much over the past few years, and it's a very nice thing. So, you have this pretty high-resolution screen here in the middle with the navigation, and that, of course, has your radio controls and things like that as well. And that's a very nice setup, very easy to use. Touchscreen's responsive, and no complaints there whatsoever. Coming down to, all the buttons and knobs actually have a pretty good feel. This big main knob here is a little bit looser than I would like. But everything else, I mean, these glossy black buttons here are all very nice and fairly high quality feeling as well. And you have the big engine stop-start button there in the middle, which is very cool and has a little blue ring that glows. And, like I said, these blue accents in here are just so cool. You have them on the doors, the center here, and it really just adds some excitement into this interior. Another quick side note of a thing that adds a really nice feature of this interior is this huge moonroof, which you get on all these, and it's a really nice, it opens up or it slides back, so you can do either or, and I really like that. I always love big moonroofs, and that one's really nice to have. As far as storage space goes in the Veloster Turbo, it's actually really good. So Hyundais are always really good with their storage space. And so first thing, you have these bottle pockets here in the doors, and so you can fit a full bottle in there. Plus you have an additional pocket that's there to put other things. And then coming along to the center here, you have this huge cubby right underneath the center stack, and you can fit all kinds of stuff in there. And and it also has in this area here, you have 2 power outlets and your auxiliary and USB and iPod jack right there in the middle. So that's nice and easy to get to, and very convenient. You have your 2 basic cup holders here, which are good, not overly huge. They get the job done. And then you have this center console here in the back that has a little bit of padding, could have more, but it's not bad. And then you have this 2-tiered storage in here, and so this one in the top is very shallow, but just for papers and things like that. Then you have this really, really deep one that is the kind that can fit a full quart of milk in there, no problem, and you actually have a normal house current plug there as well, which is awesome to have that. So yeah, a very usable storage space in this car, and it's really well thought out. As far as backseat space goes in the Veloster Turbo, it's pretty good. It's weird because since this isn't technically a 4-door car, you can't expect it to have 4-door room, so I would say your standard Honda Civic sedan would have a roomier back seat, but it's better than a regular coupe, so it's a lot more spacious than the Genesis coupe and things like that. And you have that 3rd door, which is nice to have, and but me sitting behind myself, I have a few inches of legroom there, so that's really not much of an issue unless you're a taller person. The headroom, though, is tight. I'm 5'9", and I have maybe an inch of headroom there, so it's definitely on the tighter side. That's just the price you pay for the cool sloping roofline design. So, if you're planning on transporting taller people around, I would suggest a normal proportion sedan, but this is fine for in a pinch or for people that are, a little bit on the smaller side, then they won't have a problem at all. Trunk space in the Veloster Turbo is pretty spacious there, and you can fold those rear seats down so then you can use the entire back seat as well. But even on its own with the rear seats up, it's very spacious, good depth, and again, not as good as a regular sedan or something, but it's nice to have the hatchback design, and it does make it a good amount more practical. All right, so start up and go for a drive. This one, being nicely fully loaded and everything, has the keyless start, so you just leave the key in your pocket, and you hit this middle engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off on the Veloster Turbo. So first things that you notice, well, it's very good visibility as far as that whole thing's concerned. The hood drops down nicely, so you have very good view forward. Rear visibility is pretty good because you have that extra glass portion there in the bottom. So you have a little bar in the middle dividing it, but it's really good visibility actually. Side visibility is good. You have these large side windows, so you don't have any issues there with that. And on this road, this one isn't too bumpy, but it soaks up bumps really well. And this one obviously being fully loaded, it definitely has a little bit more of an upmarket feel, and I think it's a pretty nice ride so far. Another thing you notice right off the bat in the Veloster is everything's light. The clutch is very light, the shifter's very light, and the shifter's a little loose too. It's not quite as precise as some of the stuff you get in the Hondas or the Volkswagens, things like that. But it's not bad actually. I know some people aren't a huge fan of Hyundai manual transmissions, but this one so far hasn't done anything to make me not like it. And so it's a nice car to just drive down the road. It's comfortable, it's quiet, the tires don't make really any noise. You're pretty well shielded from the outside noises and stuff. It's a pretty nice refined ride. Alrighty, so turn onto the straight right here and let's see how the power is. It's some torque steer there a little bit. Okay, so it's pretty fun. It's got a good engine note too. I like that induction sound. It almost sounds kind of like the Hondas. Sounds really good, and the power is plentiful. So we're dealing with 201 horsepower and 195 pounds-feet of torque. And the horsepower doesn't come on fully until 6,000 RPMs. The red line for this is close to 7, so you really do have to wind it out, but the torque comes on nice and early, so you have really the best of both worlds. And it's a fun little thing to drive. And I'm not wanting for power really. Yes, there's faster things out there, but for 200 horsepower, it actually feels really good. And for a car that this actually weighs only about 2,800 pounds, so it only weighs about as much as a BRZ or an FRS, and you have all the practicality that you don't have with those kind of cars. So it's a nice little car here, at least in a straight line. But I'm gonna go find some back roads, and I'll come back and give you some updated impressions. Alright, so I'm on the same road that I was on when I tested the Genesis, and also the same road I was on when I tested the Honda Civic Si. So I'm going to go down these corners here, and let's see about this handling. Very, very tight corners here. Really gives me a good feel. Lots of wheel spin, but it holds its own. Just lots and lots of tires screeching. It does pretty good though. It's not as confidence-inspiring as the Civic Si as I'm braking for these corners here. The brakes are more mushy, does not feel quite as confidence-inspiring. That is the one thing. It's handling it okay, but the Civic Si, if you go back and watch that video, it's just like, wow, that was easy. Like, it just did it no problem. The Genesis as well was really, it liked to dance, but it handled it well. And this, it handles well. Like I said, it's just not a whole lot of confidence. It's just a little bit more body roll than I would like. And it's just lots of tire screeching. These are only 215 tires, but there's other things with 215 tires that didn't screech as much as this. But it handles well. The steering weight actually gets nice and hefty when you're going around tighter corners and stuff. So the steering feels good. Like I said, this brake pedal just feels really mushy. This car only has 10,000 miles, so it's not like the brake pads are worn or anything. Yeah, it's not bad, but not overly impressed. But it's, again, like I said, it's not too bad. Another acceleration. This thing, you go full throttle in first gear, it'll just spin the tires every time. It's funny because it acts like it has more than 200 horsepower, but it's just that torque and the turbo coming on nice and early. But it's, I swear, I think if I owned one of these, I'd probably go through front tires once a month, because it's just every time you're in first gear and you floor it, it's wheel spin like crazy. You do get some torque steer as well in the lower gears. Now I'm up at reasonable speeds here, it's not too bad, but lower speeds speeds you do get that, but that's typical of most front-wheel drive cars, so I can't really knock it for that. But you know, it's fun. It is a fun car, and my hold up with this car is the competition. So if the only competition, you know, if this were maybe 5-10 years ago and the only competition this car had were the Volkswagen GTI and the Honda Civic Si, then I would say this car hits a really nice niche of, you know, it's cheaper than a GTI by a good amount. It's not quite as good at handling as a GTI, but it's cheaper, so it's okay. But it's more practical than a Civic. Then that's, you know, kind of a good niche to occupy. But then I was thinking, wait a minute, you could also get a Fiesta ST or a Focus ST. This feels closer in size to the Focus ST, I would say. But of course the Focus ST is a couple grand more, but you get a whole lot more horsepower with those as well. And you get the same front wheel drive antics with the wheel spin. And it's, I would say, a little bit of a more refined cabin and stuff as well. If you wanted to go cheaper, you can get a Fiesta ST, which I think, you know, that has, you know, very similar power figures to this. I feel like the Fiesta ST, while it's still playful and fun, gives me a little more confidence as well. So it's tough. It's really, really tough. I mean, obviously this is different looking. This thing is, you know, I think a lot of Velosters are sold simply because they look different. And, you know, so for those that love the Velosters looks, they want something that really stands out from the crowd of the usual hatchbacks and, you know, the normal mundane stuff that's out there, then this really fits it nicely, because you can just have the turbo now finally, so you have extra power, and yet you still have the great looks and the practicality and stuff. But I mean, the way that these tires, I mean, I'm sure a better set of tires would go a long way in making this feel more buttoned down, but between the tires just losing grip immediately and everything else, it's just not quite as confidence inspiring as I would like. And that's the thing, that's the bottom line for this, is there's a lot of competition in this segment, and I think that a lot of them do most of these things as good or better than the Veloster, which is tough. I mean, I would still recommend this car. It's a good car on its own. When you're not comparing it with anything else, I would say this is a great car. That doesn't mean it's not fun. That power is great. The sound is really good. I love that induction sound. No exhaust sound really, but that engine sound is really nice and satisfying. You really don't even feel the need to put an exhaust on it. You know, it's a nice refined cabin. It's very quiet in here. The materials are pretty good overall, and everything is really nice for what you get for the money. And that's the thing, is Hyundais have always been the value proposition. There's other stuff out there that's better, and I think Hyundai knows that, but they're not always as cheap as this. Most of them can't touch the price of this, aside from the Fiesta ST, which is a little bit of a smaller car. Materials might be a tad cheaper in places than this. So I mean, it is a bargain proposition. It is about the value, and you do get a whole lot for your money with this car. And of course you could tune it, get 80 pounds-feet of torque just with the tune, and then you'd have even more tire shredding power. But you know, overall, just even stock, this one's bone stock, and it's a really fun car. So I just have to give a huge thanks to Jay for allowing me to review his Veloster here. I'm really glad I got to do one, because like I said, so many of you were curious about it. I was curious myself, because I'd never driven a Veloster Turbo, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's better than I thought it was going to be, but like I said, the competition is just really tough. So unfortunately, it probably wouldn't be my pick in the hot hatch segment, but still a great choice and a great alternative to those that don't want a standard hot hatch and want something different. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.